welcome to Chaotic Riffs Magazine. We can be found on the web at www.chaoticriffs.com. My name is Jason JROCK Houston, and we're speaking with Vante lead singer Brian Troch. And Brian, could you tell me what's the name mean?
Vante?
Yeah, Vante.
Well, it's actually kind of a funny story. There's not really any deep meaning other than the fact that it means. It doesn't really mean anything other than we wanted a short, catchy name, and it's just kind of one of those things that happened by accident, honestly.
Well, I asked because a lot of bands have that story. You know, one of the hardest things is to come up with a band name, and oftentimes you come up with a name and you think it's not taken. You do a search, and hey, somebody else is already using it. So that's very original.
Our other this name is used sometimes in hip hop realms and places like that too. You know, we kind of had Vante with band attached to it, but you know, it was all in the logo. Yeah. And designed, and I was like, that kind of sets it apart. And I said, honestly, it just works.
It does.
So we did, and actually, to be honest with you, I was talking with Scott, the guitar player. And we were talking about one of the other tracks that's called I Stand, and the beginning has this really cool intro, and he said, it's kind of bizarre, though. It sounds like a vampire movie or something, and I think I texted something to him like, I want to suck your blood. Oh,
wow. I love that. I mean, what an original.
Well, then Scott said, Vant, man, that'd be cool. I go, you know, that could be a really great, just short band name. And that word, funny enough, has a lot of meaning to it. And Vante does as well, but it's not like this has like Eastern philosophy and all this stuff attached to Vante. It had like a few different meanings, or Vant with no E. Well, turns out that was taken, and it's a kind of a pop rock, alternative rock
band.
Name, and he's out of England, out of the UK.
Wow.
So I tried it with like the Greek E at the end. That wasn't taken. I secured that name. That kind of evolved into the regular E with that symbol that's kind of above in our logo.
Okay.
And I kind of said, you know, it's just great. It is.
And it's a great story. I had no idea. It's so simple that you kind of came up with it, you know, just kind of on the spot, accidentally, and your other bandmates said, hey, that's a great name. And the other thing is, even doing a YouTube search, I can't tell you all the other things when you type in Vante that come up. So people got to do a little bit of a search, but I think if they want to find the band, they will, you know.
Yeah, I'm trying to stress to everyone when you're hashtagging and stuff, like our people that do the marketing, that you should be doing hashtag like Vante Band, because all of our social media pages are called Vante Band. Oh, okay, that helps out. That helps out a lot. Yeah, and it narrows it down quite a bit. If you go to YouTube and put Vante Band in, yeah. Okay. Yeah. And now, that was a good first question, though. You almost caught me off guard a little bit.
Well, I typically ask that because a lot of times I know bands, you know, have an interesting story come up with a name, because that's one of the hardest things, like I said, that I've been told so many times for a band to do. Now, you guys are based out of Chicago, and I know for years Chicago's been really well known for like blues music. So my question to you is there much of a metal or a rock scene there these days?
Well, there was. I mean, I'm based out of. I was originally from Chicago. Scott actually lives. He's from I think Riverside originally. But when he was a kid, he moved from California to Southern Illinois, down by like Joliet, Bloomington, Normal area. I believe he's been down there for a long time. And Rev Jones, who plays some of the bass tracks, he lives in Oklahoma. One of the drummers, Jeff DeTora, plays for the Blue Man Group, and he lives in Las Vegas. Wow. And we got Chris Moore, who lives up by like Rochester, New York, and he played on the other 10 tracks. Then Scott played other bass tracks. I played a few things here and there, and we pretty much recorded. Not pretty much. We did. Everything was remotely done. And when you say remotely, you mean from each individual's home base, right? Correct. I have a studio in my house. So, wow. And a producer and an engineer friend of mine who has a studio in Rockford, Illinois, Vibe House Productions. His name's Jaden Fennell. Phenomenal. Great engineer, great producer. So everybody, Scott has his pre-production studio, and all the other guys do. So Jeff would record his drum tracks. I'd get them from Chris. We'd have to assemble a working version first with a drum program. Scott and myself, the guitar player Scott McClellan, he'll send me one of his ideas with the drum program, and we just kind of shape it from there. I do a lot of editing to fit my vocals. If we need a new part, we'll write it, and he sends it to me. I drop it into the session, and we just kind of build it from there like that. We're in close contact the whole time, just never face to face.
So did this start out as your project, Brian, and you reached out to the other members? Like, how did you find the other guys?
It originally started out Scott McClellan and myself.
Okay.
Yep. Actually, as a matter of fact, that single in the video that's out now, "Why Is It So Cold," that was the first song we ever wrote together.
Oh wow! I mean, that's going back. And you know, interesting enough, that's kind of a modern way of recording. You know, a lot of bands do that these days. You know, record individually in their own homes. You don't have to be in the same studio in the same room anymore like you did back in the day. So, as a musician, did it take you a while to get kind of used to that new modern way of doing things as far as recording?
Years ago it did, yeah. I was like, I hated going from analog tape to digital, but you know, I was so used to 2-inch tape machines and everything. It took a little bit, but then now I don't see how I could live without the editing.
Yeah, it's kind of a double-edged sword because, you know, back in the day when I grew up, that's the way the bands used to make music. You'd be in the same room and everything, and you could kind of hear that sonic sound that there was to it. But again, being it's modern way, you got to kind of go with what technology currently is. And the other thing is, if you're an up-and-coming band like you guys, I mean, financially, you don't have to spend a lot of money going to the studio if you have your own, you know, recording stuff at your own home.
Right.
Yeah. So that's a great thing about it. Now, you mentioned the video for "Why Is It So Cold." Now, how cool of an idea is to the very first song you guys write together? That's the first single. I kind of dig that.
Yeah, and you know what? It wasn't going to be that way. We've got a big radio push campaign coming up for the song "Watch the Sunrise," and that's a little more kind of goes more into like the old realm of Stone Temple Pilot-esque kind of sound. It's a very cool song, but it's definitely more rock radio. But that's got a cool video as well. That was actually going to be the first one, and then we had this other one that I wrote with Rev Jones called "Going with the Flow." And "Why Is It So Cold," we were kind of thinking, oh, maybe we shouldn't. I don't know why I thought that was a good idea. And me and Scott were both like, because actually the whole time I had always said, this has got to be the first single. Why is it so cold? Why I varied from that, I don't know.
Well, you know, it could go both ways because not even having even heard the other track, though, you know, you described kind of more radio-friendly, kind of more a little commercial Stone Temple Pilots kind of influence to it. Now, I think just that description alone, probably I would dig it. But you know what? What's interesting is about going with, you know, "Why Is It So Cold" is because I will tell you, Brian, that's the only song I've heard so far from a band. Okay, and my first impression of that song, wow, these guys are like a full-blown on metal band. And what's interesting talking to you, okay, that's just the one song. So I'm sure you got different sounds, as you're saying, on the album, and that's you know, you guys are not just all metal and all that, and that's great because I think they're coming out like with a metal track first, maybe a track that can be perceived as being metal. You know, the metal community is going to latch onto it, and I got to tell you, listening to this track and watching the video, not only did I think it was a great metal track, but I thought, you know, for being a metal band, you know, a lot of times you try to listen to stuff for the first time, you're thinking, who do these guys remind me of? I can honestly say, you know, "Why Is It So Cold?" It is indeed a great metal track, but I'm thinking, you know what, this is like no other metal track I've heard before. Meaning that you guys don't sound like Metallica or Megadeth. You got your own sound, and this is just basing it on the one song, you know?
Right. Wow, that's a huge compliment. Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, and then on the flip side, if you would have gone to the other track, you know, as big of a Stone Temple Pilots fan as I am, or, you know, saying it's kind of got that influence to the sound, you might have had people say, oh, they're trying to be, you know, the next Stone Temple Pilots.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true. The first one, yeah, and it's, even for it to being a metal tune the way it is, it still has really melodic, hooky quality.
Oh, yeah. It's metal with...
It really stands out, and it just, yeah, I think I wrote that in like one night.
I mean,
Scott had stuff down. Most of the arrangement I had to change it around, but yeah, that one just kind of came out naturally. And then it sat for a couple of years, and then we decided to pick the project up. We had talked about doing some with it, and we had to just the kind of real skeleton version of it. And then when we decided to do it, we were like, we started with that one first, and then I was like, well, why don't we do a whole album? We'll do like 8 songs, and then 8 turned to like 10 and to 14.
Well, you know, that's great, because I'm an old school guy, meaning I still I'd much rather have a physical CD in my hand than like a download. If you know, I mean, I come from the days of buying records when you used to really support the bands, you know, and I miss those days. I mean, I still get physical CDs. I just have to go onto Amazon and get it, you know, and I go that extra mile to support the bands and to support the music I love. But the point of that is, too, I mean, I love the fact that a lot of bands, I mean, you get a lot of bands, especially established bands, that of the mindset, you know what, nobody's buying CDs, so why release any new music? We're just going to live on our catalog we have, and a lot of bands got great catalog of music, but I still dig the bands, even the classic bands, that still go in and create, you know, new music.
Oh man, that's where it's at for me. I love live. I mean, I always have, but the creation process is really, really where it's at for me. I mean, taking something from absolutely nothing, but a little idea in your head, and then watching it come to fruition to this final master mix where you're like, everything sounds exactly how I heard it in my head. I can't even describe that feeling. And even if nobody else likes it, if you're happy with it at that point, you just don't care. Yes.
Yeah, because you got to like the music you're putting out. I mean, if you were just doing this strictly, you know, to be commercially successful and, you know, and hit the charts and all that, but you know, you weren't loving what you were creating, you wouldn't probably last too long, or, you know, you just
nobody's actually scorching the earth with their streaming royalties nowadays.
yeah, and that's why I got to really give it to you for going in there and doing a full length album. Again, I'm an old school guy, meaning that you know, a lot of bands will just go in there and maybe they'll release a track at a time, or we're just going to put out a 4 or 5 track EP, and as great as that is, whenever that happens, I'm always left wanting more, you know, like I want a full album. Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard for me to turn the spigot off.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, and once the juices are flowing, I'm like, well, and then all of a sudden he'll send me another riff, and I heard there were a couple of songs we weren't going to even attempt to do them. We were just like, we got enough on our plate. But I was like, you know, all of a sudden something would stick out, like a vocal line or a lyric line, and I'd be like, oh man, that's it now. And the rest of the song would just happen. I'm like, well, now it's 13, now it's 14 songs. Yeah. And Scott's like, whatever, bro.
You got to stop at some point, yeah.
So, yeah, we had a really great time writing and recording together. Scott and I, man, we really gelled together as a songwriting team, and we're just really great friends. And so it was a cool process. I mean, it was at least a year and a half in the making. So, well, yeah. I mean, even before that, if you consider like a couple of the old versions, the song "I Stand" was another one that was right around the same time period as "Why Is It So Cold" when we first started working together. Prior to that, and then everything just kind of went into a hiatus for a couple of years. So that one we redid. So Jeff Tatora played on that one drums. He played on 4 tracks. Jeff Tatora. He's in another band with me and my wife called Elliot Waits for No One. That's definitely different from any of this.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like, it's definitely more, I don't know, you'd have to look it up.
I think I heard you guys before.
We have all come to, but Jeff plays in that. He plays in the Blue Man Group in Vegas. Like I said, Chris Moore, who played on the other 10 tracks, he's played with George Lynch. He played with...
oh, yeah, Chris. I've interviewed him once or twice. Super nice guy. And then, in fact, I think Chris, I don't know if he still does, but at one point he used to play in Southern California in a Smashing Pumpkins tribute band.
Yes, you're correct.
Yeah,
he played with Angelo Moore, Fishbone.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about.
Over 2 in Ultraphonics. And you hit the nail right on the head, man. He's such a super nice guy. And I mean, talk about someone easy to work with, man. He'll have, you know, he'll go there to his studio. He learns the song. You know, he has a version from me that has just bass, drums, and scratch vocals with a click, or he puts his own click to it, and then really 48-hour turnaround tops.
Wow.
Because he's done all his homework before he goes in. He gets in the studio, bam, bam, bam. He sends me a rough of it. I say, I love it. He's like, cool. I'll put the files in our shared Dropbox folder. Okay, brother, on to the next one. And it was just so easy. And yeah, even his video footage was the same way. Very professional and just like the nicest guy you'll ever meet.
And so what's it like when you've recorded everything, you get the final CD back, you get that final product, and I mean, because I imagine as everybody's singing their parts and the songs sound much different than the final product, so to have everything kind of come together and you got it final product done, that's got to be the ultimate kind of feeling of accomplishment.
It totally is, because it's tedious, especially once I'm getting files back, and then I got to make sure everything is exactly on the grid again, because sometimes during the transfer process and tracking on top of other stuff, things can start to get off of the grid just a little bit, and before it reaches the final phase, I want it to be like on. Especially by the time Chris gets a hold of it, it's got to be so that he can lay a steady drum track to it. And then I still make some adjustments. I get it back. Then it's time to ship all the stems over to Javen, and then we begin our process. Like, we did more of it via text than we did phone, to be honest with you.
Wow. And so,
it's a matter of making rounds of mix notes, and saying, at these time stamps, this is what I hear. I want this to go like this, and we're so good and been working so long together now that we can practically read each other's minds too. So,
and did the COVID lockdowns have a lot to do with you guys finally deciding to get this project off? Well, we got nothing else to do, so let's try to do this.
Well, or
not really.
Certainly, I mean, it certainly helped. I mean, because there was all this
free time.
There was more time on my hands. I actually was writing this, and we actually moved in the middle of that while I was writing this too.
Wow. And another guy you mentioned is Rev Jones. I've interviewed him, super talented guy in his own right. He's one of those guys too, like you said, he plays bass, guitar, he sings, he writes. So he's one of those multi-instrumental guys, he can do it all. How did you hook up with him?
Well, Scott, he was gonna put his solo album out on Dark Star.
Yeah.
And Scott had done some work with him, and he said, hey, maybe I could get Rev to play the album. I said, hey, great.
Yeah, in fact, I interviewed him for his last solo album, and I could not believe it. Like he does almost everything, on that album, and it's amazing what a huge... that guy is not only so talented, but I think he's one of the best-kept secrets, as far as musicians out there.
He's amazing. What a cool guy, too. Rev... we kind of clicked songwriting wise immediately too, and he tapped into a little more because I have a strong soul and blues background. I started out singing soul music basically.
Wow.
So I like 10 or whatever I was. I'd been singing my whole life, but not till about around that age when I was really doing it, and then I started getting into theater and all that. But Rev, I'm getting totally off topic here.
That's all right, yeah.
I was supposed to record on all the songs. Okay. That was the plan. But there were some delays on another end, and then he's also George Thorogood's guitar tech, so... Okay,
yeah, we understand, yeah.
Yeah, so, and then all of a sudden, everything started loosening up, and George said he was going to tour again, and Rev's like, man, he goes, I want to finish this, maybe I can do it from the hotel room. Then he was like, it's just too much, man, I don't think I'm going to be able to do it, I can't put the time in I need to, and he was bummed, we were bummed, but we wrote 3 songs together that are on the album. So,
the show must go on, as they say, and that's kind of interesting thing about a project like this. I mean, have you guys played any live shows, or are there any plans to do that to support this?
At first we were like, well, let's wait and see, but it's looking like it's already picking up some traction, and we said, well, we could at least maybe start. I was talking to Jeff, because he's friends with Danny out in Vegas from Counting Cars, and we could do it over at Counts of Amped or something, maybe something there, and then maybe something in Chicago, maybe. We weren't sure, and then who knows, that could grow into something else. I guess it all depends on what happens, but definitely I would hate to just see it be like one of those things that's like just kind of there and never play it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, well, a lot of those things like they used to put out with Frontier Records, all those all-star things, they put out great albums, but then, like you said, everybody's got a busy schedule, so a lot of times those things don't even get promoted. So,
I could see it doing more like well-planned one-offs or two-offs, but I mean, that kind of thing.
Yeah, the reason I asked, too, is because a project like this, I would think, you know, except for you and, you know, your main partner there, you know, this could the kind of thing live where, you know, if Rev Jones isn't available, you could always get another bass player, guitar player to, you know, fill in. And I think that's what makes this such a great, fun project. It's kind of, you could have a whole cattle call of people come in.
The songs that I wrote with Rev, they're definitely a little different flavor. It's almost like we tapped into more of this 70s rock kind of. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then I'm even one of them. Some of my Doug Penning influence, I think, comes out. It's actually pretty cool. I mean, we touch on a lot of flavors there. I mean, sometimes I think I hear Audio Slave. Sometimes I hear Seven Dust or tracks or something. Yes. So.
When you have different musicians like that playing on different tracks, you know, everybody does kind of bring their influence into the project, and I think that makes it for a stronger project, you know, whatever we're talking about now. Who are some of the singers that influenced you?
Jason, somehow we seem to take all that, took all that different stuff and somehow made it all kind of still make sense into the one project that sounds like us. It just kind of happened that way.
Like I can't wait to hear the rest of the album for the simple fact of what we've been talking about. I mean, again, I've just heard the one track, Why Is It So Cold? And to me, okay, they're a metal band. That's what, you know, that's the first impression. And I love the fact that after talking, finding out, okay, that's the first track you guys wrote for this band, and you went with it just happens to be the first single. And I like the fact that listening to the track is like nothing I've heard before. I mean, you guys seem to, just on the one track I'm talking about, you seem to have an identity of your own. I think that's why it was smart to go with that track as the first single.
Yeah, I'm glad we did. Thank you. You're absolutely 100% correct, too.
And I got to tell people, you got a strong team of people behind this band. I mean, just to give you an idea of, you know, your publicist, Michael Brandville, I mean, he's got a lot of great artists he's worked with over years. I mean, everybody from Kiss and Accept to Britney Spears and up-and-coming bands like yourself.
Michael's great.
And he's really great at not only promoting the bands he works with, but, you know, he really pushes the hell out of them, you know?
He does. He does. I've been, like, I can't keep up with resharing his content he's creating.
And he's even got a great little, you know, he's a huge Kiss fan as am I, and he's got a great little Kiss-related podcast that he does once a week and called Three Sides of a Coin, and I just think he's great at what he does.
Yeah, it's awesome. Definitely a plus to have on the team. The radio people, Tim Binder, and I think they're called New Ocean Media, they're really great too. Everyone at Dark Star has been great. I've known Lloyd Freeze forever and Jeffrey Swanson for just years. So, I mean, it's a great team of people, yeah. Really happy with it.
And so, how's radio been responding so far?
The campaign has not started for the radio.
Now
as far as
the video.
So Cold track being, like internet radio and that kind of stuff, very well received, yeah.
And how about on YouTube? The thing I love about, you know, YouTube is you can kind of just post your stuff out. You know, back in the day, I mean, bands used to have to work overtime to even get their, you know, video played on MTV back in the day. And I love the fact that you can kind of just put your stuff out there and see right away how people respond to it.
It's, you know, we planned the rollout was pretty deliberate the way we're rolling it out and everything. We're at the next video and single comes out on the 10th.
Wow.
Then the record release, and then that's the whole radio campaign starts on the 7th. Then we have our release on the 17th of all 14 songs.
Okay, wow.
Plus CDs available. We have a merch store set up on our website, which is www.vanteband.com. And there's really good quality merch, hoodies and shirts. I think I'm going to get some beanies in there too. But
and people can find you on Facebook, right? And you guys have got an official site?
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It's all at Vante Band.
And then, as far as the release of the album, when the album finally drops in June, is it going to be initially available just digitally? Can they get physical CDs?
No, yeah, we already have the physical CDs, yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can actually pre-order the CDs right now.
Okay, and where's the best spot to do that? I mean,
I know there's posts on all our social media.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it should be on the website. I just haven't checked lately. I've been so slammed. I just got the second video done and out, so out the door. But you go to Facebook and look at you'll see. You can go to Dark Star Records on Facebook or their website and see how to pre-order over there. That's a good spot to go.
And Dark Star Records, what a great label. I mean, I'm just starting to kind of learn about them. I mean, you know, one of the greatest things they put out this year is that Tony Martin solo CD. Who used to be singer for Black Sabbath, and I think it's best-selling album of his career. I mean, since leaving Sabbath. So
Scott McClellan, who's the guitar player, Vante, is Tony's guitar player as well.
Oh wow! Oh
yeah, he played on Thorns.
Yeah.
He wrote, I would say, most of the music. I think Scott wrote a ton of that music. So
yeah, just reading the liner notes, that's what it said. So I mean, wow.
Yeah, and that's kind of how when he started doing Tony again. Then we started talking about, hey, we should, you know, he goes, I want to do something that's a little different. And to be honest with you, again, we were writing heavier material, and it kind of seemed like it's like it sounded forced or something.
I got you.
So, you know what I mean? We're like, and I'm going, you know, even if I was that kind of singer, not as much now. I'm in a different place. And Scott said, I agree, man. I hear us going. He goes, I think I know how to change the vibe up to fit your voice better. And he did. He started giving me different material, and then all of a sudden, we were just like, wow, we kind of found our niche here. It was really great.
So, Brian, before I let you go and we wrap it up for today, let me ask you, who are some of your favorite singers, you know, the guys that influenced you growing up?
Oh, God. Theo.
Wow, okay, yeah.
Bill Dickinson, Halford, all the 70s rock singers. I was a huge Jim Morrison fan. Yeah. I was a huge Otis Redding fan, Sam Cooke.
Oh, wow, what a wide range of... wow.
John from Seven Dust, John Bush, Doug Pennick from King's X, Chris Cornell. I mean, there were some grunge singers even that influenced me. I mean, from an early age, though, it was really the soul element, blues element. That, and I think I was like 10 when my family took me to see Jesus Christ Superstar, and I was just like, wow, this is really powerful. Yeah, so that's when it really, really picked up for me. And funny, I ended up playing Honest in Jesus Christ Superstar in Syracuse, New York.
Oh, wow.
Years later, yeah. But, yeah, and I could probably name...
that's a wide range right there, and we'll just end on this note. I'm not surprised to hear that, because a lot of guys, like even you know, guys like Ronnie James Dio. I mean, I've heard that he did stuff before he was ever in Rainbow, or anybody ever knew who he was, like with Ronnie and the Prophets. And you can go on YouTube and listen to some of that stuff. I mean, it sounds almost more blues and metal influenced, and so we all have our roots. And I think it makes you a more rounded musician, a better songwriter, when you listen to different influences, because again, then...
Yeah, it helps that I play multi-instruments, too, for songwriting. I play guitar, I play bass, I play keyboards, whatever.
And that helps, too, in recording, because then you have a better idea of what the other guys in the band do, and just, and it makes you that much better a producer, even. I mean, I heard recently an interview with James Lomenzo. He's a bass player in Megadeth, and before he went back to Megadeth, he was playing with John Fogerty, and people were asking, hey, what are you doing playing with John Fogerty? You're a metal guy. And he's like, you know what? It pays the bills. It's a gig. I can do both, you know?
If you're really a serious artist, it's not like, no, you're not just this or just that or just anything. I mean, ones that I know that have had longevity in the business, they're music lovers in general. I mean, I pretty much, there's not much. I mean, I might find good and bad and everything, but for the most part, there's something that I could take away positive from any kind of music. So, I don't know. I
mean, to give you a perfect example, you know, like I typically interview like, you know, musicians from metal and hard rock bands, but like I recently got to interview Lord Nelson. He used to be the singer in Stuck Mojo, and I'm like, why the hell would I not interview the former lead singer of Stuck Mojo? You know, I mean, they've got rap fans, they've got metal fans, so why not? You know?
I know, that's right, yeah. I agree.
Well, Brian, I want to say it's been a pleasure talking to you. Like I said, the interview will be going up in the next 2 weeks. I'll let you know once I have a date for that. At that point, you're more than welcome to post it on or share it on any of your sites. If you enjoyed the way the interview came out today, let's keep in touch and we can do it again once I've had a chance to hear the entire album.
Oh, that'd be great. Absolutely.
Okay, you take care, my friend. Have a nice rest of your holiday.
You too, Jason.
Bye-bye.
JROCK Riffs Magazine.